I tell you, it feels good to be here out here smelling the cows and the horses. I'm here with brother Robert Williams, and we're gonna start. Tell us about your journey. Now, this is my roots, but I know this is not your roots. But you've been here a good while now. But tell us about your journey, your life's journey, beginning in your hometown, and the influential figures in your life, your mother and your father. Tell us.
Um, Man, my life journey, it's been a long one. I'm 60 years old now,
Wow.
Bishop.
Wow.
60 years out here, man. Hey, Facebook Live. I see y'all out there too. Look,
Yeah.
you know what? I've never watched a 30-minute Facebook Live video before all the way through, and I know y'all not either. So before I tell you that, can I
Yeah.
tell them something?
Yes.
We have worked very hard to get criminal justice reform at the very top of the Texas Democratic Party platform. We've been successful there. What we haven't been successful at is actually getting it into the mouths of candidates and getting it on the ballot. Okay? So we're working on that. August 28th, which is actually the 55th year anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's Freedom March.
John Washington.
That's right. We are having a rally for criminal justice reform in Austin at the Capitol with a march down Congress. All of our statewide candidates are going to be there. We're also asking for our down ballot candidates to be there. And we are hoping that when this is over, criminal justice reform will be, quote, on the ballot. Okay? So we're going to have some more information coming out there very soon for you. Hope to see you all there. Back to the original question, my journey. How did I end up here? I was born in Austin, Texas. My mother was born in Giddings, Texas. My daddy, who was a pastor as well, was born in a small town called Lincoln, Texas. We still own that property today, by the way.
Wow.
It's 101 acres. It was not sharecropped.
Amen.
Yeah, my grandfather bought that property in 1917
Wow.
as a black man
Amen.
working on the railroad. Man, I'm telling you, I'm so,
1917.
yeah, 1917.
That's,
My grandfather
100
bought
years,
that
100
property.
years ago.
That's a long time, bro.
Yeah.
That's 101
100
years ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
He used to always tell me when I was a kid, Bobby, don't sell this property. Well, we haven't sold it, and we still have it. And my roots actually kind of, at least in my activism and caring about people, started with them and things that I saw in the country. Man, I would spend the summers with my grandmother. She was a big, strong, strapping black woman, man. My grandfather at that time, diabetes got him, so he was blind. He had to get 2 legs amputated, and so her work was full-time taking care of him. And back in that day, man, she had a wood-burning stove.
Oh, wow.
Man, I still don't know, man, how
Yeah.
how you bake cornbread and fry chicken at the same time, man, and it come out great, but she could do that. But with those wood-burning stoves, you had to keep wood there all the time,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So I'd be out there busting wood with her, and I remember this one day specifically where old Doc Willard lived down the road from us, came riding up the road very slow, about 3 miles an hour, and he stopped right there in front of the house. He was an old white guy. He was the community vet / family doctor.
Okay.
He was all of that. When he pulled up to the fence, my grandmother, this big, strong, strapping woman, all of a sudden went to, "Hey, Doc Willard, sir. Good to see you, Doc Willard, sir. So glad to see you, Doc. What are you doing, Doc Willard, sir?" And I'm looking up at her like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I was probably 6, 7 years old. Doc Willard tips his hat. He goes on down the road, and my grandmother straightens her back. And she gets back to chopping wood. Never said a word about it. That wasn't right.
You're right.
That wasn't right. I had a great deal of respect for my grandmother then and now for doing what they had to do.
Wow. Yeah.
Back then. Trust me, if she wasn't doing that type of stuff then, we wouldn't have that property
Right.
today. They'd have hung them niggas.
Right.
Right? But even as a young kid, I knew those things weren't right, man. Had some experiences up in Giddings. We would go visit the other side of my grandparents. Every weekend, seems like, we'd drive up there to see my grandmother, and we'd always stop at the Giddings City Meat Market. It's still there today. And this one particular day, I don't know why, but I just noticed that we were walking in on the colored side, and there was a white side. The white side was nice, pretty white tile, as I remember, and the colored side was that old red dirt from the Giddings area. And there was a banister that separated us. Now, my mother being from that area, she's talking to all of these people across the banister,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking up, how come we can't walk on,
Right.
how come we can't walk on the white tile like they do? That ain't right. You know, so at a very early age, man, I had experiences that, I don't know if you'd say brought out the rebel in me or the inquisitive part in me or just the that ain't right
Part of you.
part
Yes.
in me. Yeah. And if it ain't right, then you ought to be able to do something about it, man.
Right.
You know, my mother worked for 42 years.
Just turned 85. God bless her.
Just
Amen.
turned 85,
Yes, sir.
man.
Yeah.
She did. Working harder than both you and I, Bishop. I'm
Amen.
trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And she worked 42 years in the school district, but what a lot of people don't know about my mother, she also worked as a maid.
What they call domestic. The maid is a good word today, right?
That's a
they
good
call,
word
They called
today.
domestic back then, right?
There you
yeah,
go.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's what she was. I still remember that old white lady, Miss Watson. Basically made Mama feel a part of the family. You know how they did back
right,
then.
Right.
Kind of made us feel part of the family. She was very wealthy. When she died, I remember she put in a will for my mother to receive this little fur thing. It wasn't a full coat, it was this little fur thing you put around you. It was a fox fur. The fox's head was still on it. Had little glass marbles. It was cheap as hell. Now this lady has all this money, right? We're part of the family.
Right.
And in the will, you leave my mother.
A fake. Yeah.
So you about my mother in the first place. That wasn't right
Right.
to me. So those things kind of formed, I guess, my activism. I have a whole bunch of those stories.
Wow.
Right. I'm 60 years old, man.
Yeah.
You know, folks tell you all the time, get over it, right? Well, man, I
Yes.
lived through. These aren't fake stories to me. They aren't things that I read about in a book somewhere. These are things that actually happened. You know, kind of fast forward up to junior high school. I went to Pierce Junior High in Austin Reagan.
And were they integrated when you went through it?
Integration had just started.
Okay.
And when I went to school, man, the race riots were still going on.
Wow.
Now, when I was in junior high, I used to be glad for those race riots to start, 'cause my mama always told me, you come straight home. I'm like, she got me a free day off, right? You know?
Right.
And then my old quarterback, a couple other football players, a couple of cheerleaders, we got tired of that stuff, man. We said, man, you know, we're going to do what we can to put an end to this. You know, we started a group called Gray Power. I know it's corny, you know, black and white make gray.
Right.
So we put together this play
Wow.
that actually this play showed the stupidity of racism, right? And we presented this play to our principal. I just talked about this, my old high school quarterback, about 3 months ago. They all still remember it vividly. And he was so impressed that he let us go from classroom to classroom.
Wow. Showing the play.
Doing this play.
Uh-huh.
And we were happy to do it. I graduated from there, went to high school. Man, we still having race riots, bro.
Mm.
That unity stuff did not work. We tried it.
Didn't work.
No. No. You know, I realized that before unity, man, that there has to be some mutual respect.
Amen. Amen.
Right? We've been in this battle for dignity for a long time, man. And so when I went to high school, I actually saw one of my best friends get killed in these race riots. And those things stick with you.
The birth of activism, when you start the grade, that's when your activism, looking back, that's when your activism started for you.
And I didn't even know what it was.
You know what you, yeah, it's yes.
I didn't even know.
The situation called for and you just birthed in, you came out of you.
Didn't know what it was. I just knew that these things weren't right, and there was something always in my gut, man, that you do something about them, man. I joined the military, stayed there for 7 years, and when I got out of the military, man, I came back home, and I'm kind of fast forwarding to kind of, you know, get into these kind of life-changing moments for me, man. And we had a neighborhood meeting that my father invited me to. The city was talking about moving a dump in our area. And so all of the homeowners are there, and they're, you know, giving their points of view, this, that, and the other. Finally, I stood up. I mean, I'm just a little young kid, you know, I don't own any property, my daddy does. And I said, look, I think that we should look for some other places for this dump and present that to the city before we just go to them and say, you know, we don't want it here. Let's try to give them some options. Man, they shut me down, man. I'll never forget this old guy saying, this meeting is for homeowners only.
Wow.
Yeah. So I can't talk. Kind of pissed me off, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody should have a right to speak.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
Now this was black people
Wow. Yeah.
that I was with that was shutting me down.
Yeah.
In this meeting, those things, man, had a. I didn't like being shut up.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing getting shut up when you saying stupid stuff,
Exactly,
right? You know,
exactly, yeah,
I remember riding in the car with mom and daddy, and they talking, and then I try to interrupt them.
Yeah.
Pow! You get that? Remember those
Yeah.
licks
Yeah.
across the back seat?
That's
Well, I
different,
shouldn't have been. Yeah,
Right.
I deserved that.
Right.
I didn't deserve to get treated like that.
Right.
Everybody has a voice, right? And we should listen. So those things kind of spurred my activism on, man. And ended up moving down here from Austin. I met my wife at UT. She was matter of fact, she was born and raised right across the street over there.
Amen.
And her daddy gave us this property. And I immediately got involved here. My wife would always tell me, baby, Brazoria County just ain't ready for you. You know,
Say Travis County.
yeah, you know, I'm coming with this liberal Austin, Texas, Travis County. You know, when I was in the military, I was in New Jersey, liberal as can be. I was in Massachusetts. I was in Europe, you know, and then I come down here to a place where the Confederate flag flies free.
One thing that moved when we talk about this when you said you would go by this plantation and finish it again. That really struck a chord to me when you were discussing that the other day. That kind of ties to this area.
Yeah, it does. It's almost kind of hard to talk about, Bishop. There, Levi Jordan Plantation is right up the road from here. the state is in the process of restoring it. And I don't know any other way to put this than to say when white people restore a plantation, it's different than when black people will restore a plantation and the stories that we would take from there. Right? You know, I've heard some of the presentations that they have given, and it's all about how big of a revenue producer this plantation was. Hell, I'd make a lot of money too if I had free labor, bro.
Yeah, right.
They never talked about that though. They never talked about the slave. They would make jokes about the little white kids sneaking out the house at night and going down to the row houses. And they'd laugh about that.
Trying to uphold what they call heritage. What heritage are we upholding?
That wasn't funny to me because I knew they were down there raping our ancestors, our grandmothers, mothers. And so from time to time, I go up there. And I apologize, man. That's all right. It's just hard to talk about. And I look out over that plantation, I look at that big house, and I can imagine our people slaving back there in those fields, and I can literally hear them cry out to me.
Their voices crying out for nerve.
Their voices crying out, man, don't let our death be in vain.
Yeah.
Don't let our death be in vain.
Right.
And so, as I'm working on criminal justice reform now, this is very important to me because I realize that nothing changes for the black man, the black woman, for the African American until we address this issue. And this is why. You can't say that you are for criminal justice reform, but you are against refunding Texas schools.
Yeah.
Right? You can't say that you're for criminal justice reform, but you're against Medicare and Medicaid and affordable health care.
Right.
You can't say that you're for criminal justice reform and say that you're against reforming the socio-economic status that exists today, especially amongst the disparity amongst our people. And so there's a battle on this side, right? Not to have comprehensive criminal justice reform because it involves all of those components.
Yes.
It involves education. It involves mental health. It involves the socioeconomic.
Big business.
It involves big
business is big business, and that's huge.
Talk,
that's
Bishop.
very huge.
Talk.
Amen.
Yeah. And so, unless we deal with this,
right.
we still gonna be fighting these battles for dignity until my daughter is 95 years old, like my mama.
Right.
And that should not be. Right. And so, we're fighting hard for it right now. We fought to get it moved to the top of the platform. That went over well. Thank God for Kim R, county DA up in Harris County, who I was on the chairman's advisory committee and we were putting this thing together, and she actually came in the room, and I hadn't even had a conversation with Kim R, but she started to say how important that it was that we first of all rebuilt it from what it was previously, to that we move it to the top of the platform, and that our candidates actually have the courage to get out and speak on these issues.
Yes.
I ain't have to say nothing else. Door shut.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to move to the top of the platform, and now we are addressing even our churches.
Yes.
August the 10th, we have a pastoral partnership, if you will, with Pastor Ralph Douglas West, who is representing the mega churches on one side, and Reverend Gibbs out of Houston, who has the resources and knows people and all of the associations and districts across the state of Texas, which are primarily the smaller African-American churches. And we're bringing them all together. And our goal is to re-empower these churches,
Yes.
Bishop. After Jeremiah Wright, man, all our pastors ran back to the corner. They were like, man, shoot, I don't want the media coming after me like they did Jeremiah Wright. The whole time they were doing that, Carl Rowe had the evangelical right preaching from the pulpit.
Franklin Graham, yes.
Come on,
Yes.
Franklin Graham and all them boys. Yeah, so we lost out there. And so what we found out, man, is that our churches really don't know how to talk about these issues of concern or talk about certain candidates. And what we're telling them is, this is pretty easy, right? Criminal justice reform, health care, education. Jesus fought for the poor.
Now let's get real now.
And the sick.
Yeah. He said, I come here.
I
to heal the
came for
broken-
them.
heal the broken heart.
So you don't have to approach this as a political issue.
No.
If you're a Christian,
Yes.
stand on Christian principles,
Yes. Human rights principles.
human rights principles, and how about just do what Jesus did?
Yes. And take care of the least of these among us.
Take care of the least of these amongst us.
I want to
Speak as a bishop on that, man.
as a pastor, I don't understand why you wouldn't speak up on. I want to ask you about you. You talk about the social, all the areas of touch, but when we look at the citizen, the crimes, and I just showed you. I think it's an example by a young lady, one white woman, hung a baby, didn't kill a baby, but she got probation. When you talk about voting, because we'll get to voting and accountability, how could we not understand that if we tell these mothers and these children that we're going to put candidates in there that's trying to bring your husband home out of these slave plantations, these called prisons, because they're in there, majority of them, for non-violent crimes. That'll ignite a fire of activism that we've never seen before, because then you don't have to worry about the vote campaign. They're going to rise up. But as you say, it makes sense because you're trying. Because if we're not preaching this over the pulpit, that your husband needs Jesus and the Lord and mental health and not a jail cell, that Jesus came to set you free from. Number one, why should I come and hear you preach and come to your church? And surely, why should I be voting out here? Because you're not representing me. And so, therefore, the cause is a human cause. The cause is a godly cause. The cause is a kingdom cause. And I just don't understand how any pastor, any deacon, any man or woman of God could say they would have anything but to uphold criminal justice reform, because we know we got all the evidence, we got all the empirical studies that it is a unjust system.
Well, one reason that they don't is because they don't understand what criminal justice reform is.
Okay.
Here it is right there. Go to the Texas Democratic Party website. Just click on platform. You'll see it. It's the lead issue there. And go through and look at the components of criminal justice reform. Then you will better understand. Bail reform. Why should a young man, 20 years old, probably working at McDonald's, right? Stand in a little apartment with his baby mama, get caught with a joint, but now he don't have the money for the bail. So now he stays in jail 2 months, 3 months, 6 months.
Yes.
He done lost his job. He done lost his apartment over a joint.
Yes. Which is a violation of his fundamental Bill of Rights.
Absolutely. And you know how easily fixed that is? The DAs in every county in these 254 counties we have in the state of Texas could mandate to their prosecutors not to, or to start issuing PR bonds, personal recognizance bonds, for non-violent offenses. It's real simple.
Amen.
Kim Ogg did it in Houston.
Yes.
It's real simple. Now that boy when people see criminal and justice together, they for some reason they think we are trying to help criminals out. I want people to understand this, that the aim of criminal justice reform is not to reduce accountability for criminals, but it is to raise, it is to increase fairness and equity in a system that has been systemically biased, by design, I might add, for years.
Yes.
That's what criminal justice reform
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Okay?
And when you talk about criminal justice and crime, we got to understand that a lot of crimes were created, particularly in the 70s, with this war on drugs that Nixon and Reagan continued. Legality is a matter of power, not morality. So when you talk about these crimes, in many cases they wouldn't even be crimes. Because I lived in Italy, and having a joint is not a crime where you go to prison for it. Let's be real, we're talking about crime. So criminal justice reform, matter of fact, we want the criminals locked up.
Let me stop you right there, because I need to make this point. Our criminal justice system right now very closely mirrors the criminal justice system during the Jim Crow era.
Watch out. Yes.
These kids going to prison basically for one joint.
Come on.
Guess what? The black codes during the Jim Crow era, you had some laws in there called the vagrancy laws, which meant that a black man could do the simplest of things,
Yes.
spit on the side of the road,
Right.
and they could put him in jail,
Yes.
put him in prison,
Yes.
right? Then they added another law in there, convict leasing. So this same man, this black man, that just spit on the side of the road is now in prison. Now you can lease him out to these plantations.
Yes. Yes. For big money.
And
Big
it's
business.
mirroring
Yes.
what's happening in our in the criminal justice system today.
Yes.
Pretty much half the clothes that we got on right now made in
So,
prison.
yes.
They not just making license plates no more.
Yeah, it's big business.
It's
And
big business.
It's also tied to Ava DuVernay's classic 13th, the 13th Amendment. When they ended slavery, they said that they can enslave you, read the 13th Amendment, for crimes. So therefore they can put you in prison and make you enslaved without pay for crimes, the 13th Amendment. So we have used these laws to justify this slave mentality, this slave
That's why we need reform.
Yes.
Why in the hell
Yeah.
do we still have a criminal justice system still in place today that mirrors
Yes.
the criminal justice system of the Jim Crow era?
Yes.
Right there, I ought to tell you.
We know the answer why.
Yeah, we know the answer why. But we need to do something about it.
Yes.
But our people also need to be educated themselves.
Yes.
That's why
We're doing yes.
I wish all of you would go to that website, go pick it up, look at what we've done. You know the first thing that we did? The first thing that I changed when we were rebuilding that criminal justice reform platform was change the name. The name that they had was criminal justice, not reform.
Yeah.
That was the platform of 2016. That in itself just throws people off.
Right.
That in itself is, you can go a million different ways. And they had marijuana reform in there. They had sexual harassment and all these other things that's not part of criminal justice reform.
Right.
Marijuana reform can stand on its own
Yes.
as a platform, right? Preventing sexual violence and domestic abuse. Those can stand on their own, but that's not part of criminal justice reform.
Right.
We are trying to reform a system
Systematic.
that is, as I said just a second ago, that has been intentionally designed.
And I want to make this clear. I know when we talking about criminal justice reform, we talking about the police on the street. You're talking about every aspect of the system. The police on the street, how you get treated as a citizen, bail, prison, sentencing. The whole system needs to be reformed. Not just one part of it. The whole system needs to be reformed because
You know what, man? A lot of my friends that I played football with, that I went to school with, I look at some of their Facebook posts now. They racist as hell. Well, if they was racist then, they were racist back then,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So guess what? A lot of them graduated from high school and put on police uniform. Because you put that uniform on, don't change nothing in here or in here.
No.
Right?
Sensitivity training don't change that neither.
No, man. You got to make people do right.
Yes.
You got to make people do right. And so I just had an incident. I called a guy the other day. He was on Facebook yesterday, just crying, man, about how the system has let him down. He's got caught up in the system. He got hooked on opioids, but they were legal.
Okay.
He got hurt, and the doctor just started prescribing him all these. He can go get him a whole bottle of them right now at the pharmacy if he wants to. But they changed his behavior, right? He would get violent. He ended up getting a criminal record. He said the last time he was in jail, they threw him in there, man, and left him in there for 60 days in solitary confinement. He said when he came out of there, man, he went home, and man, I gave the guy a lot of props. He kicked that habit by himself. I say, man, look, I've been amongst that. I've seen that. I know how hard that is to do. But he said, Mr. Williams, he said I could either go around to the pharmacy and get me a handful of pills and die, or I could lay in this bed for a week and just almost die, right? But have a chance to live and be different. Well, because he had this record, a few days before I called him, he was walking to the store to get some Excedrin. He don't take pain pills no more. He takes getting some Excedrin. One of the cops pulled up, local cops that knew him. Hey, come here, I want to talk to you. He told him, man, I don't talk to cops. That's what he told him. Now, you can say he shouldn't have said that or not, but he can say that, right, without getting tased. Right. He goes in the store, he comes back out, the cop gets behind him, he walking, turns on his lights, gets out of his car, grabs this man, slams him, cuffs him, takes him down. One thing that we have in our criminal justice platform, man, is the need for reentry and rehabilitation. If this man would have had, if there were some reentry programs there, right? Rehabilitation for people like this, he might have been walking down the street and him and that cop now are just simply saying hi to each other, right? There is a need for criminal justice reform. We're going to highlight it on August 28th.
Awesome.
Yes, on the anniversary of the Martin Luther King Freedom March. That's right. Amen. We're going to highlight it, man. Beto.
Now, let's talk about Mr. Beto. Yeah, let's talk about him. Now, we know you support him.
I do support Beto.
Let's talk why and accountability, and let's talk about that and what he's doing to give you confidence. Somebody who's been on the ground, who knows, you know a charlatan. You're 60 years old. You've been around. You've seen the ugliness of this race. You've seen it. And so, why does Beto got your inspiration and got your vote and got your support?
He listens.
Okay. Wow, that's a great thing, isn't it? It's amazing.
That's
Yeah.
a great thing, man. Look, I'm telling you something. I can tell way more about a person that doesn't return a phone call than the person that does. Over a year ago, our coalition started speaking of Beto. Hey, y'all, I'm on an interview right now. Can y'all be quiet? We started talking to Beto, and we were talking to him about criminal justice reform. One thing we found out when we were talking to him was that he was from El Paso. Well, there ain't many black folk down there.
Yes. No.
He didn't understand, right? He knew history because he's a very smart guy, but he couldn't understand us. And so he actually asked us for help. He said, look, I need to know how to message this. You need to give me some suggestions for people that I can bring on board, right? Those types of things. And we stayed with him, and gradually we saw Beto started to talk. Angel, I'm doing an interview, baby. Thank you. We saw him speaking behind closed doors in telephone conversations or to largely African American audiences about criminal justice reform. But when he would get in front of a room of 300 white people of Texas, right? And then about halfway through that speech, it was like he would have to sidestep and say, oh, and let me talk about my black people too. I didn't like that.
Right.
I don't think you would like that.
No.
We are Texans too.
Amen.
We are Americans too.
Amen.
Right? We should be a part. You should be able to talk about us just as smoothly on these issues that you're talking about, everything else. And so we continued to bring these concerns out to him. And he just got better. He simply got better. And when I say better, man, Beto is out there right now giving speeches. And for all of you candidates out there, you need to listen to this. Beto is giving speeches that are clinics on how you message criminal justice reform. So that's one reason our candidates don't talk about it, because they don't know how to message it. They feel that it is a liability to their campaign.
Right.
Well, if I'm talking about criminal justice reform, I'm talking about black people and white people. No. You're talking about a system that needs reform.
Yes.
That, guess what? It affects more than black people.
Yes.
You got poor white people too.
Right. And Hispanics.
And Hispanics too.
Black,
Yeah, it ain't just a black issue or just a white issue.
Right.
It's a system that is not designed for people of color, for those who are poor. They don't recognize that, man, better than anybody else, and he's just taking it to a new level, right? And so I hold all the candidates accountable. I'm not enamored by, except Michelle Obama. My wife know I got that crush on her. But anybody else, I'm not enamored by it and don't want to be friends with any of them.
Right.
You know what I want you to say you were going to do when you talk to me down here on the street? How about that?
That's right.
Is that asking too much?
No.
You came down here to my neighborhood. You came down here to my church. You came down here to this community. This is what you said you were going to do. How about doing that when you get in office?
So your vote is not for sale.
My vote ain't for sale. Not even a Beto. And he knew it.
Right.
But guess what? If you do what's right, and we're not asking Beto or any other candidate to do anything, off the chart. But if we find you doing what's right, guess what? As much as I held you accountable, you'll find out, man, that my support means a lot more than that.
Yes.
Yeah. I was gonna vote for him if he started talking about it or not. But it's a difference in you getting my vote
And getting my support.
Right.
Amen.
He got my support.
Amen.
And we're trying to get, that's why we're having this statewide, all of our statewide candidates at this event on August 28th. Y'all make sure y'all come to this. It's going to be fantastic. Even our down ballot candidates. If you don't know how to message criminal justice reform, when you leave there, you will. When you leave there, you will, and you will be comfortable in doing so. And I believe that each and every person will leave there and be able to say criminal justice reform is now on the ballot.
If you want to, in the way I see it, I'm not a political science expert, but I just don't see if you want to bring new voters to the polls. If you want to get them, as they say, off the couch. This issue is one of the issues, because it's a human rights issue all the time for me. This is one issue that will do it.
I'm glad you brought that up, man, because last election, we had a lot of our younger voters, a lot of our millennial African-American voters, and shoot, some people might rebel because they got tired of the system, man.
Yeah.
They got tired of people saying one thing, you know, in the primary, and then by the time they get elected, it's been wallowed down so much they don't even know what it is. I can say this one thing about Trump. Trump campaigned the same way in the primary as he did in the general.
Don't y'all love him?
Huh? He did what he said he was going to do.
Amen.
We can learn from that.
Yeah, and quit being shocked when he doing. Why are you being shocked when the man told you he didn't like messing with rapists? He was lazy. Why are you shocked that he is a sexist? He showed us. This is not surprising when he showed up at the White House. That's what all we get with these people that run around. They so shocked. You're shocked about what he did the other day. Why?
What we want is some candidates and some elected officials with some courage.
Yes.
And guess what? Those that rebelled last election will come out. This is real easy math right here. African American vote went down to 56%, which was almost a historical low.
Yeah.
Right? All you have to do is bring that back up to that 62, 64%. Beto, you in.
Yes.
A lot of you down candidate, because you're going to be on his coattail, you in. So how do you bring those numbers back? Those folks that felt you didn't give a damn about them, let them know that you care.
Yeah, man.
Beto has let me know that he cares, man.
All right. Because I talked to the disillusioned voter. I talked to the voter who says, yeah, Bishop, I hear you on criminal justice reform. I hear you on mass incarceration. And then they come back with me with this, and I got to be honest. They say, we had a black man in the White House for 8 years. Criminal justice reform is nothing new. It's been there. What are we going to do something about it? They want to know the grassroots. What are we going to do something about it? Because this is not a new subject. This is something that's been going on, like you say, since the 60s, since Jim Crow, since the end of slavery. They want to be able to say, man, we're voting for somebody who
it's never been on the ballot.
It's never been on the ballot. That's why we got to get it together.
It's never been on the ballot.
Yeah.
It's never been, it's the number one issue on our platform right now. This is unprecedented.
Yes.
And when I say on the ballot, I don't mean printed on the ballot.
Yes.
What I mean is this is what they're talking about. This is what's being voted on now.
Okay.
Right? And Beto has found a way to message that in a room full of 500 white people and have them standing up clapping.
Wow.
Because his messaging is clear on it. Look, this is a human rights issue.
It's not even civil rights. It's a human rights.
It ain't even a civil rights. It's a human rights issue. Yeah. And that's the way he frames it, man. Correctly, I might add. And guess what? Those disillusioned voters, those voters that rebelled last time are going to feel a part of this campaign now.
Yes.
They'll go back to the polls, and as a result, they'll win. Now, you keep trying to play blue dog Democrat.
Yeah.
You keep trying to play right down the middle of the line, think that you're going to draw over some Republican votes and win.
Yeah, see.
You will lose every time.
Yeah.
We got enough votes. Matter of fact, I just saw a poll the other day that the Democrats have registered 12 million more people than the Republicans have since Hillary lost. We got the numbers. Why are you playing to them? Yeah. You don't even like what they talking about.
Right. Right.
But you can feel our issues.
Yes.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Campaign on it.
Yeah.
Bring those people back home.
Let them
In
see
November we win.
it. Amen. Let them see in Austin talking about them,
Yes.
their husbands, their come home. I want to read you something, and it touched me so much when I read it. You put it on Facebook, and you remember when I started reading, and it was just so moving because it really shows us who we are in an individual. You wrote this. You said, "Driving alone always gives me an opportunity to self-examination, and a few things I'm sure. I'm not perfect. I made mistakes. I'm not scared. I have fear. I'm loved. I'm hated. I will fight you. I will fight against you. I'm unapologetically black. I'm spiritual. I'm worldly. I'm persistent. I am honest to a fault. I'm taking some secrets to the grave. I hate the politics of politics.
I do, man.
I would probably always be involved in politics. I am a piece of work. But I like your clothes. I love your clothes. But what I am most sure is that my motives are always pure, so I keep pressing." Does that define who your legacy, what you want to leave behind, and who you are? And it's complicated. We're all complicated human beings, and we're just trying to.
I think so, man. I got, every time that you fight for something, you're fighting against someone.
Yes.
Right? And so in this business that I'm in, man, I made a lot of enemies within the party, outside of the party. There are a lot of people that hate me. I think that you will find that they all respect me.
Amen.
Because they know my motives are pure. I've got one Republican friend right here in Missouri, Republican friend because of our relationship.
Wow.
But he tells these folks all the time, Robert's not radical. Robert is just passionate about what he believes in. And my motives are pure. They are. I'm not look here, man. When I ran for school board, that's the first time I ever ran for office in my life. I don't hold any titles, man.
Yeah.
I'm a stand in the gap kind of guy.
Amen.
Right? I'll stand in there and mend that fence, until somebody can get up there and fix it, and then I'm going on to the next thing. I'm not looking to get here so I can elevate here so I can get this title. I have no titles right now. I just stand in the gap, and I do what I do because I love you, man. I love my daughter. I love children on the street. I love right.
Yes.
When I think of my daddy, man, that's all I see is right. G.B. Clark preached his funeral, and when he died, he said, "There goes the last of the good ones." My daddy was a good one, man. And it's not that I'm necessarily trying to live up to his legacy. Some things, they just drop in you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I guess.
I would call you extremist. I call you you're an extremist for justice. You're an extremist for love. You're an extremist for those people in those prisons right now who can't sit up here with me and do an interview because they locked up. You're extremist. Then that's fine because in the end, when I wake up on that day, I got to answer.
I know good and well I'm a radical.
Yes.
And proud of it.
And
but I'll tell you something. It's one thing. It's one thing though. When white folks call me radical.
Yeah.
I understand what you mean.
Yes.
In this last election that we had, that I ran for school board, I'm not going to mention this pastor's name, but he's pastor of the largest black church here in Southern Missouri County. I went to talk to him, looking for his support. And he told me, "Robert, they just see you as too radical." I can understand when white folks call me radical, but when another brother called me, that hurt me, man. That he's probably gonna see this now, and he know who I'm talking about, and I didn't want him to know he hurt me, but that did. If radical is trying to clarify to people who don't seem to understand that we have a system that's unjust.
Yes.
If that's radical, okay, I'm radical. If you want to call me radical because I went up to a school board meeting and
found out that they had hired 32 teachers, only one was black.
Mm.
I went to that school board and I said, listen, next school board meeting, I'd like to see 5 years worth of hiring practices.
Yes.
Not only for teachers, but administrators also. If that's radical, I'm fine with that. They brought it, by the way.
Yes.
And the numbers came more in line with the demographics of the city.
Yeah.
The
Right.
percentages of, lined up with what they're supposed to be. So I'm okay with, I think you have to, just like you said, Jesus was right. But man, when your own folks call you that, man, that hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
That one hurt me, and it hurt me for a lot of reasons, because if he's calling me that, as a pastor, what's he preaching across the pulpit, man, these people? You know what I call it? I call it a slave mentality.
Slaveholder religion. That's what I call it, slaveholder religion.
Slaveholder religion, man. Yeah, he holding them there, but he holding them there with, man, the wrong thing. Bishop, I sure appreciate you coming all the way down there from San Antonio, man.
Well, this has been more than good. I am excited, and I know. So tell us again about the next upcoming rallies, and then we'll talk about. I want you to leave us with your words of encouragement for the grassroots that's going to listen to this to talk to that, because I deal with a lot of kids, and I deal with a lot of mothers, because particularly my issue with the school to prison pipeline as a high school teacher, and I talk to a lot of mothers who tell me, Chief, they call me Chief, my Hispanic son, because it's predominantly black and brown school, my Hispanic son and my black son, they get all the discipline in the schools, they get all the school. Is anybody going to help them, going to be there for them, or do they have a jail cell waiting on them? What?
Let me address that first, man. There is power in numbers. Man, I love the grassroots. Because from this grassroots, man, from these voices, this is what's supposed to be happening up there.
Yeah.
Our directive shouldn't come from the top down.
Bottom up.
It should come from the bottom up. And guess what? It's way more us than them than it is of them. And I'll give you this analogy, man. When I worked for UPS, I was a Teamster. I was in the union. I actually went on strike in '97 for 3 weeks. Sure did. Sat out on that street, didn't know if I was going to get my job back again or not. But I learned something about collective bargaining. That had I went into the CEO's office of UPS by myself and expressed my grievances, he probably would have listened to me. All right, Mr. Williams, we'll see you later. Shook my hand, and when he shut the door, forgot who I was. But when 450,000 walked in that door, he had to pay attention, Bishop. It's the same thing with the grassroots.
They untap that power. We untap that power.
Yes.
Unleash it.
Yes, here it is right here.
Yes.
And they gotta listen.
Yes.
Yes. I have some very good friends who are elected officials right now. Brian Reynolds, I love him to death. Senator Royce West, love him to death. Sophronia Thompson, love him to death. Jackson, I love him to death. But you know what though? I'm not enamored with none of them.
Amen.
Yeah, and when it's time to call them on the carpet, I tell them all the time, I don't want to be your friend because I don't want our friendship to get in the way of me having to call you on the carpet when you wrong.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and we will do that
Right.
because we had a number. It should be about us. Those are my encouraging words for the folks in the grassroots, man. Organize, get yourself together, make them pay attention to you.
Amen.
They should.
Yes.
They should.
Amen.
August 28th.
All right. Be there.
August 28th, Austin, Texas, on the state Capitol steps.
Amen.
We are going to have all of our statewide candidates. We are going to have grassroots speakers from all over the state.
What time it start?
From 3 to 5 p.m.
Okay.
The rally is going to be right before.
Okay.
Oh, we're also going to have Billy Dorsey, who is a two-time Grammy Award winner, Stellar Award winner, writer, producer, and songwriter, because he believes in criminal justice reform.
Will you be able to register to vote at this
We
event?
are definitely going to be doing
Okay.
big time voter registration
Okay.
there.
All
Yeah, and so we're working. We have some people inside of UT that we're
Okay.
working with
Okay.
that are going to get these UT students out. Also at HT, Houston Tillerson,
Right.
going to be getting those students out. So, oh yeah, we're going to be registering folks to vote. And, when we walk away from there, remember this: criminal justice reform will be on the ballot.
Amen. Amen. Issue of all time. Amen. Robert Williams. Amen.
Bye, y'all. Who stayed on here that whole time? I know you didn't.
No, a lot of people were.
4.